Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Today we're going to be talking about the Xyz Link Festival that has just recently started up here in-game. Now I'm sure a lot of you are wondering exactly what decks are best for the event, and I am here to tell you. So I have 3 decks lined up that I think are going to be quite good for the Xyz Link Festival, mostly because they require very few changes from their, original form under a regular ban list to the event ladder, and also on top of the fact that they are inherently powerful decks in their own right. So we're going to be taking a look at these deck lists today. I'm going to be going over them, and I'll talk about, again, the differences between this and the regular version, how it might play differently, and of course discussing which one I think is best and strongest for this event. Before we dive into it though, definitely want to encourage you to take a look at the description below. There I have a couple links that you might be interested in. For one, over on patreon.com/hexlex, I do actually post daily content over there as well. It's all exclusive, none of it is repeat content from YouTube, and we talk about a lot of things such as OCG card reveals and tournament reports. We look at the duel lives. If you like watching those, we do a lot of those over there. I show off some bonus gameplay that is not featured here on the channel from myself, among other things as well. Also, another great way to support the channel, if you're interested, is to join as a YouTube member. That way, if you do want the YouTube content just earlier, you get access to that as soon as it is uploaded, rather than at the daily scheduled time. So again, if you're interested, would encourage you to support the channel by checking out those links, but also just watching here is another great way to support. Anyway, now that we've gotten that out of the way, the game does have these loner decks as always as ever, and one of them is a twin deck that's not horrible, but we can certainly do better than these loner decks. So we'll go ahead and start diving into the decks that I've built for this event and discussing them here. If you're in the market for a deck that in particular doesn't change its gameplay style at all between regular ranked ladder and event ladder, then I would highly encourage you to check out the Madolche archetype. Now granted, I wouldn't necessarily recommend crafting a whole Madolche deck necessarily if you are just looking to play it for this event, but if you're like me and you already own / enjoy playing the Madolche archetype, then it translates 1-to-1 extremely well from the regular ranked ladder build to the event ladder build. Of course, this is by design. Konami does set up these events so that they can showcase decks from recent selection packs, and that those fit the bill for the event, right? So for Madolche here, quite literally the only change I've made to the main deck is taking out Maxi. Maxi is, of course, banned for this event. Tends to get banned for the events that Konami wants to be more casual, whereas it tends to be more legal for stuff like Duelist Cups and also like festivals that have ranked ladders, stuff that is intended to be more competitive, right? So Maxi is out. In that regard, I've put in a playset of Effect Veilers instead. I was already playing Gammas and the Driver, but if you're not on Gamma Driver, I might actually recommend playing that even before Veilers instead of Maxi here. The main reason for that is because a lot of our plays that we start off with in Madolche do not actually commit to using, or having rather, a monster on the board, right? So, for example, the Vernu's Selves like Flourishing Hills and Mystic Seedlings, and then of course also the Madolche Angeli, which tributes itself to use the effect. So those are all playmakers that resolve without having a monster on the field, therefore the Gamma ends up being quite nice. Like I said though, I was already on it, so I've opted for Veilers. Maxi on Imperms, of course, is definitely recommended too. Honestly, I could see a world where I play a second Nibiru, in this deck in particular. We are going to be playing a second Nibiru in some other decks I'll be showing off here, but for this one in particular, I decided to, again, focus on the monster effect negation. When it comes to, replacing hand traps for other hand traps when they get banned in festivals, I tend to kind of go down the priority order of like the strongest hand traps, right? So I might not necessarily dive into something like Ghost Spell unless I think that there's going to be a very, very popular deck in the festival that Ghost Spell is really good against. Most decks are probably already main decking the playset of Ash Blossom. I would max out on stuff like Imperm and Veiler first, and if it's applicable for your deck, looking at the Gamma again is also quite good. Nibiru, again, as I touched upon before, if you're not already playing it, looking into playing at least one, if not multiple copies without Max C can also be quite beneficial. Again, that might vary from festival to festival depending on what's legal and what the format ends up looking like, but for the most part, this is a pretty sound thing that you can do, right? For the extra deck, again, have literally only made one change because of the banning of SP Little Knight, which was in the extra deck. I simply put in a second Medolce Fresh Sistart. I really don't expect this to come up that often, if ever at all, but I really wasn't sure if there was another, League 2 that would be any better necessarily. In terms of what we can make in Medolce, there's like Asa, the Earth Charmer, which is like not really that useful in a lot of matchups. We could also look at more rank force, potentially. We're already on Baguska, but also, at the same time, Medolce is one of those decks that does tend to archetype block. So, having more Medolce monsters in the extra deck in particular is never a bad thing. Indeed, even a regular Medolce build is already playing like 2 Tiramisu, 3 Glass of Flay, 2 Chocolate a la Mode, 2 mini Meowcaruns, 2 of the TRFSC, because having more Medolce monsters tends to be better in this deck in particular. So, again, like I said, if you're just looking to play a deck that you don't want to have to think about changing really at all from one event, from, again, regular ranked ladder to the event, then I would definitely recommend going for Medolce if you already own the stuff for it. But there are some more powerful decks I think are in this festival than simply just Medolce. While it does have the cleanest translation, that doesn't always mean it's necessarily the most powerful deck, within the event. So let's see some other stuff here that is pretty good for this festival. And the next one of those is going to be Twin Sprite. This is probably the one that most people are going to defer to, and with good reason. Not only is Twin Sprite quite strong, but it's also really cheap. Now, granted, I do have the alt arts, right, which are URs. I actually did manage to pull a second alt art Leela alongside a Royal and Beyond Mine recently, which is quite nice. But if you're not in the market for the fancier arts, so to speak, you can always just craft the regular versions of the Evil Twins. And those are just SRs. So even if you don't already own twin stuff, it's actually not that big of a stretch to build it for this event. And the same honestly goes for the Sprite package, right? Now, this is going to be the first of the decks we're going to look at that has had an impact from the event ban list. The event ban list has limited Sprite Blue to 1. It's also limited Sprite Jet to 1. On top of that, Sprite Elf also got limited to 1, and there's another one. Oh, it was Starter. Sprite Starter has also been limited to 1. So a lot of hits for the Sprite archetype in particular, which I was pretty bummed about. Not just for the sake of Twin Sprite, but like Sprite fits the bill. Sprite, like pure Sprite, is an Xyz Link deck, and I don't think that it would have been inherently any more powerful than everything else with, everything at its current limitations. 2 blue, 2 jet, 3 starter, 3 elf. But apparently Konami really did feel that way. Honestly, I think it's less that Konami felt this way and more that they wanted to push us building decks from the new packs, right? And again, this is something that I touched upon earlier, but it's something that we have very consistently seen, as a trend throughout Master Duel's history. Have you ever wondered why there seems to be so many Xyz festivals or festivals for types of summoning in particular? The reason is because it's really easy to use those kinds of festivals to then push the sales of the latest selection pack. It's like we were just talking about with Medolce, right? Medolce was in the latest selection pack and fits the bill for Xyz Link. It also wasn't hit at all. We look at the twin stuff, right? The Evil and Live Twin stuff wasn't hit at all. And of course, we have the current pack and bundle in the shop with the alt arts, right? They're currently, even though it's not technically getting new support, they're still really, really pushing the Live/Evil Twin archetype because it's on sale in the shop. Sprite, however, Sprite isn't very marketable. It's not marketable because it's cheap as an archetype. A lot of people already probably have it, and it doesn't have any support in the near future. So why, of course, would we being Konami, want to incentivize people to play the easy, cheap deck they already own? No, it's all about sales, sales, sales. And I know I sound a little jaded, but I don't think it's a shock or a surprise that is at the crux of the decision points behind, you know, what they decide to hit and keep legal, etc. in these events. It's a little frustrating to me, again, not just because I love Sprite, but because it makes festivals in particular kind of boring, if I'm being totally honest. Like, you know, if you think about it in that regard, it makes a lot of sense why they haven't revisited, you know, normal rare festival, NR, right? Because that's not profitable. Like, even if they do a ban list in such a way that you have to buy the latest selection pack to have a deck for an NR event, it's still just normals and rares, right? People don't have to buy packs. We all have plenty of crafting points for them. Well, most of us do anyway, but my point being that, you know, like I said, the festivals are designed to push pack sales. That is first and foremost their function. It's not for us to have fun under an alt format, and unfortunately it really never was. So anyway, that's kind of my rant about Master Duel festivals. I actually made a whole video, like, I think like a year and a half ago about, like, why do all these MD festivals, you know, why are they all so boring? And, yeah, I think that video still holds up. Anyway, on to Twin Sprite in particular. So, one thing in particular that you could be playing that I'm not, if you own it, is more copies of Secret Password. Again, I'm really not in the market to be crafting more URs just for a festival, so I'm just sticking with my one Secret Password. But I guess another card that I didn't think about until just now that you could play as well is the Live Twin Home. Which I totally forgot I have a royal copy of this. Even if you don't own a Secret Passwords, you could just play more copies of Live Twin Home. And I actually might end up doing that, taking out maybe, because I have a couple of copies of Meow Mine, but I really don't think you need to. In fact, I'm just going to make this change right now. Again, if I owned a second Secret Password, I play that over the Twin Home, but I don't think, especially for the purpose of a festival, Twin Home is really that much worse. Like I touched upon, I am also on the EMP Meow Mine, not just for the festival, but this is also just good in general, right? In Twin Sprite, and I'm probably going to be trying it out here in the deck on regular ranked ladder at some point in the very near future, but with the Blue and Jet Limited especially, we're missing more extenders as well as starters, so that's why I put in the Meow Mine, and why we've also doubled up on Red, which before we were only playing one single copy of. Doubling up on more interaction stuff too, like Nibiru and Triple Tactics talent. I think we were already maxed out on Valor and Imperm, but I have decided to include Droll and Lockbird for some additional hand trap support. Droll and Lockbird, I guess, kind of being one of the next hand traps that when I kind of go down the list, right? Because, you know, we're already essentially maxed out on Valor, Nib, Ash. Not quite maxed out on Nib, but, you know, we're playing two copies, which is as much as I want to play. So, in that regard, like, could still think about playing stuff like Ghost Ogre and Bell and Mourner, but I think the Droll and Lockbird for the lingering effect does tend to be better. And there are a number of decks, including the Mirror Match potentially, which Droll is good against in this festival, right? Droll not always, you know, shutting down the Twin Sprite Mirror Match, but if they do lead with something like Secret Password or Sunny Snitch, then it does become a lot more difficult for them to be able to make some follow-up plays. Overall, while you do have to change more about Twin Sprite than you do about something like Madolche, I actually do think that Twin Sprite is probably just one of the stronger decks to play in the format. I do think it is stronger than Madolche. But is it the strongest deck for the Link Xyz Festival? We have one more list I want to take a look at here before we decide that. So let's see what we got. Okay, so for our final Xyz Link Festival deck list, we're going to be taking a look at MathMech here. So, MathMech went pretty largely unchanged, except for one pretty major hit, and that is the limiting of MathMech Circular. Cue the comments that are going to come in and be like, they need to do this on regular lists too. They don't, by the way, but... so that is a pretty noticeable impact for the MathMech deck, of course, especially because it's already got a number of hits implemented, like the limiting of Diameter, the semi of Synapse Mining, and the semi of Parallel Exceed. But there are some other engines that you could try out to kind of help make the starters a little bit more frequent. And for me, I've elected for the Spirit package. It's going to be Sakitama and the Aratama as well. It's funny because there was like a minute where, you know, for regular ranked ladder, people were kind of debating if the Spirit package or the Firewall package was better in MathMech. The Firewall package, I think, pretty clearly edged the Spirit package out as the superior way to play MathMech in regular ranked ladder, but that doesn't mean that these Spirits are necessarily bad at all either. they are quite good for making a rank 4, which if you can go into the Allen version, then it doesn't matter that the circular is limited, because you can just search it up and then go into a full combo anyway. So thinking about that circular axis, of course we do have the signet minings as well as the small worlds to potentially help with that, but of course, yeah, losing 2 copies of a card definitely does really hurt its consistency. I am still on the Ghost Ogre here because I was already maining it. I'm like, it's a good enough small world bridge, I suppose, so we'll just keep it around. But other than that, as far as like, other changes that we made to the deck, doubling up on that nib, like I said, we are definitely wanting to play. There is even an argument to be made for playing a second Nibiru in Math Mech, like in regular ranked ladder as well, because it does make your small world bridges a little more consistent in that regard. The extra deck, excuse me. The extra deck, too, is another pretty major source of changes for the Math Mech list. Of course, in regular Math Mech, you are usually on, not even showing up here because it's forbidden, but yeah, you're usually playing the D-Save Worm, and then I've also been a fan recently of the DPH Gendamore. Oh, you know what I just realized, and I'm glad I did now, is I forgot to put multiplication back in. Multiplication, yes. So I was not playing Math Mech Multiplication in the latest build that I was testing out. I know I just said that we were keeping it, but we could probably just cut the Ghost Ogre in this particular build for it. I wasn't playing Multiplication in Math Mech before because the DPH Gendamore fills a very similar role, but notably does not eat a main deck slot. It has an extra deck slot that it takes up instead, which I value a little bit more highly. Also, Multiplication is Math Mech's only true Garnet, so being able to remove that made the list a lot better. But with the DPH Gendamore banned, if you want to OTK with the Firewall Dragon, Dark Fluid, Neo, Tempest, Terahertz, you are going to need that Multiplication in your deck. So very glad I caught that when I did. Yeah, so the D-Save Worm, the loss of D-Save Worm does make our Super Factorial a lot more susceptible to the Called by the Grave. So that is definitely something that you're going to have to watch out for. And in that regard, you can't necessarily sit on Super Factorial Terahertz with the same level of certainty that you did before. That's one of the reasons why I've decided to keep playing the Gachiri at Ignister, even though Tenpai isn't a thing in this event, is because if you make the terahertz with the, Gachiri, it makes something like Call By on your diameter off of Super Factorial less impactful, less negatively impactful, because, your terahertz will be unaffected, so it'll be very difficult, if not impossible, for your opponent to actually fully out it, and then you can crack back with an OTK on the follow-up turn, which will be made easier by the fact that your terahertz will have gotten to send multiple monsters to the graveyard, right? So I do like the Gachiri still in that regard. Now, is this the strongest Xyz Link Festival deck? That's kind of the big question that I've been asking myself here. And I think that in terms of both strength and not having, how it plays rather affected too badly, I do think that Math Mech is probably going to end up coming out on top. Twin Sprite, which we looked at just a little bit ago, is still quite good, and I think is a very close second to Math Mech for the best Xyz Link deck festival, or Link Festival deck. But I think the thing that Math Mech kind of edges out over Twin Sprite is just the fact that, I guess to be fair, both decks can play a lot of hand traps, and they have a lot of room for them, and they get to stay consistent, but the thing about Twin Sprite in particular is that it's the limiting of starter that I think really hampers Twin Sprite, right? Because there are going to be a lot of times where you just don't open your live twin stuff and then you're kind of SOL with only one starter. Makes it much less frequent to open, right? Whereas with Math Mech, again, the circular to one, you could make the same argument, but also we were able to pretty cleanly find more starters with the spirit monsters, right? Live Twin didn't necessarily have that. I guess there is the secret password argument, but this is also a lot cheaper. I guess just for me personally, because I already own the Sakitamas, I don't know that I would really justify crafting these if you didn't already own them for this event. I've said that multiple times, so the real answer in that regard is that I don't recommend crafting URs for festivals ever. Unless you are really having fun, then by all means go for it. But yeah, the festivals, like, of course, they're temporary, and there are only so many rewards you can get from them. So crafting URs just for them, I don't recommend. But if you already own the Sakitamas, then I think the Math Mech deck does end up being the best. Otherwise, if you're going for a new deck for this event and you need to craft everything, and you really are going to do that, then I'd probably just go for Twin Sprite, because again, all the Live Twin stuff is cheap, and the only URs from the Sprite department are going to be the blue, the starter, one of each. You can get away with one gigantic, and then Elf is also at 1. So, all right. That is going to do it for this video. Let me know if you like this style of video. I've been meaning to make this for a little bit now. Less, you know, just festival gameplay, and more like, here's a bunch of different decks we can talk about for festivals. So if you like this, definitely let me know, and I can make more of it in the future. But that is going to do it for this one. So why don't we just go ahead now and move on to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Just want to give you a huge thanks for watching all the way to the very end of the video. Believe it or not, that is actually one of the best ways that you can support the channel, is by watching the videos in their entirety. But there are many ways in which you can support the channel if you are so interested. The names that you're seeing on screen here, I gotta give an extra special thanks to, because these are people who have chosen to either become a member on YouTube, which if you're interested you can do as well via the join button next to the subscribe button down there, or have signed up over on Patreon and become members there. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Without the support that is being offered by, again, all the people that you're seeing on screen right here, I would not be able to take the time to dedicate to uploading daily YouTube videos. So thank you so very much. But there are also other ways you can support as well. Again, link to the description below. If you like my deck tracker that you'll see in a lot of my videos, the Untapped Companion, you can download that for free, and if you use my affiliate link down there, then that also goes a long way towards supporting the channel. That's, again, free. So is subscribing here on YouTube. That's also free and a huge way to support. You can also check out Twitch, once again linked in the description below. Following and subscribing over there will not only support as well, but also give you notifications of when I go live if you want to catch some of the live streams. But really, no matter how you choose to support, it all adds up, and it all definitely means the world. So thank you, each and every one of you. For now, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out. But more than that, I'm hoping that you have a fantastic day.